October 22nd to the 25th. So we're going to give approval. We have a motion to give approval for the attendance of student trustee LaFrance to the fall general meeting. Motion that the board approve the attendance of student trustee LaFrance at the OSTA fall general meeting. It was an online conference, October 22nd to 25th, 2020, moved by trustee Clement, seconded by trustee Hunda. Poll vote, Director Blazek.
Trustee Clement.
In favor.
Trustee Dewar.
In favor?
Trustee Gibson.
In favor.
Trustee Hunda.
In favor.
Trustee Cosmerly.
In favor.
Trustee Morrison.
In favor.
Trustee St. Jean.
In favor.
Trustee Stringer.
In favor.
Student trustee LaFrance.
In favor.
Carried.
Thank you very much. The motion is carried. Before we move on to the next item, I'm hoping we will hear more about this. And there was a good amount of backup information with our agendas that you might enjoy reading about. So levying education taxes bylaw, motion that the levying education taxes for 2020 bylaw as attached be deemed to have been read 3 times and approved. Moved by trustee Morrison, seconded by trustee Hunda. Poll vote, Director Blazek.
Trustee Clement.
In favor.
Trustee Dewar.
In favor?
Trustee Gibson.
I was trying to get the chair's attention there before we started the vote. I was wondering if we could just get a brief explanation of the purpose of this resolution.
We'll call on Director or Superintendent Bazinet.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. This is an annual requirement by which all school boards must pass such a bylaw to be compliant with our legislative requirement under the Education Act, even though we no longer have any direct involvement in setting or management of tax rates.
May I call the question?
Oh, yes.
Director Blazek.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll start over. Trustee Clement.
In favor.
Trustee Dewar.
In favor?
Trustee Gibson.
In favor.
Trustee Hunda.
In favor.
Trustee Cosmerly.
In favor.
Trustee Morrison.
In favor.
Trustee St. Jean.
In favor.
Trustee Stringer.
In favor.
Student trustee LaFrance.
In favor.
Carried.
The motion is carried. Request for leave of absence, motion that trustee Linda Dubosky be granted a leave of absence from the October 27th, 2020 board meeting. Moved by trustee Cosmerly, seconded by trustee Stringer. Poll vote, Director Blazek.
Trustee Clement.
In favor.
Trustee Dewar.
In favor?
Trustee Gibson.
In favor.
Trustee Hunda.
In favor.
Trustee Cosmerly.
In favor.
Trustee Morrison.
In favor.
Trustee St. Jean.
In favor.
Trustee Stringer.
In favor.
Student trustee LaFrance.
In favor.
Carried.
The motion is carried. So I'm going to give you just a second, Director Blazek, to put away the roll call sheets or the poll vote sheets. and call on you for the director's remarks. We don't hear anything. I don't know if we're supposed to be hearing something, but I don't hear anything.
Can you hear me now?
There, now we can hear you.
So just so you know, they're still working on the live streaming connection. I'm not sure if it doesn't appear to be at our end. So there is a challenge, so it is being worked on. But I think I'll go ahead anyways.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair. And good evening, trustees. A month has passed since I last provided a board update on the impact of COVID-19 in Rainbow schools. As you know, Rainbow School District School Board recorded its first confirmed case at a school late last week. I will outline for you how that situation evolved as part of this evening's chronology. But first, I will pick up where we left off at the last board meeting. A great deal has happened that I would like to summarize for you because it is relevant to our overall response to COVID-19. As you know, physical activity and sport are an effective way to promote mental health and physical well-being. And mental health and physical well-being have certainly been impacted by the pandemic, as we have all had to adjust to this global reality. For this reason, we have worked with Sudbury District Secondary Schools Athletic Association, sometimes referred to as SIDSA, on the safe delivery of sports approved for competition by their respective provincial sports organizations and public health. Where sports are offered, participants are required to follow the Ministry of Education, School Board, Reopening Guide, Provincial Sport Organization, and public health protocols at all times. Health and safety guides decision-making as each sport's opportunity is considered. Based on direction of the relevant provincial sport organization and public health, the following sports currently have returned to competition status. They include flag football, golf, cross-country running, volleyball, and baseball. We have gone over and above provincial guidelines and public health requirements by asking participants in volleyball and flag football to wear masks to compete. And we do not allow spectators at games. Based on direction of the relevant provincial sports organization and public health, the following sports do not have returned to competition status and are not being offered in schools this fall. They include boys contact football and girls basketball. These sports are not permitted under Phase 3 of the province's framework for reopening because they involved prolonged or deliberate contact. These sports, however, do have returned to train status in Rainbow schools, which means physically distanced skill-based training can take place under approved guidelines. As always, health and safety remains the top priority as we look to offer as many sport opportunities as possible to students in Rainbow schools. As the pandemic progresses, we will continue to monitor the situation along with the Sudbury District Secondary Schools Athletic Association and respond accordingly. We held our weekly teleconference call with the Deputy Minister on October the 1st. The province of Ontario has revised its school screening tool to help parents and guardians determine when it is most appropriate to have their children tested for COVID-19. The school screening tool can be accessed online at rainbowschools.ca. Parents and guardians are required to screen their children daily before sending them to school. Our message has been clear from the start. Screen for COVID-19 as part of your morning routine. Secondary students can self-screen using the online tool and monitor for symptoms. As a parent and guardian, If you notice that your child has new or worsening symptoms, what you do depends on the symptom and how usual they are for your child. Let me highlight one of the changes for parents and guardians. If your child's only symptom is a runny nose, you should keep your child home and monitor their symptoms. When they feel better, they are ready to go back to school and no COVID-19 testing is necessary. As directed by the assessment tool, if they get worse or develop other symptoms, parents and guardians should contact their healthcare provider for more advice. Mild symptoms known to persist in young children, example, a runny nose, may be ongoing at time of return to school if other symptoms have been resolved. The revised school screening tool for children provides greater clarity for parents and will help to ensure that students do not miss too much school while they are awaiting a test and a test result that may, in fact, not be needed based on guidance from public health. On October 2nd, we held a Professional Learning Day. Also on that day, the Ministry of Education released its guidance on assessment, evaluation, and reporting. We'll focus on both of these in a moment. Given that October 2nd was a Friday, as expected, we received a notice from the consortium advising us that 11 school bus routes would be canceled the week of October 5th due to driver shortage. That was down from 14 in the previous weeks, so we are headed in the right direction. COVID-19 priorities were the focus of half of the Professional Learning Day on October 2nd. It gave us an opportunity to check in with staff, reinforce health and safety practices, engage in two-way dialogue, and gather ongoing feedback. I would like to commend our teachers and support staff for rising to the challenge during these unprecedented times. They have joined the ranks of frontline workers, and I am so proud of their individual and collective response to the pandemic. Our students' families have also made the best of this new reality and demonstrated tremendous resilience. The other half of the Professional Learning Day on October 2nd was devoted to our board improvement plan and school improvement plans. While health and safety remain first and foremost, we cannot lose sight of our core function. For this reason, I asked Superintendent Judy Noble to make a presentation at the last Strategic Planning Committee meeting. Our program lead, under the leadership of Superintendent Noble, with our system principals, did an excellent job developing the easy-to-use tool for principals to deliver school-based professional learning tailored to their individual needs. The choice boards, one for elementary and one for secondary, with relevant link to notes, slideshows, and videos, were simple, yet extremely effective. The approach was very well received by our instructional leaders and staff in schools. And I'm pleased that Superintendent Noble had the opportunity to present the choice boards to you during the strategic planning meeting held on October 13th. Also on October 2nd, the Ministry of Education released guidance on assessment, evaluation, and reporting. The provincial report card templates for grades 1 to 6 and grades 7 and 8 have been updated for the 2020-2021 school year to align with the new mathematics curriculum. Teachers will now report one overall mark for the subject of mathematics, along with comments that reflect learning across the strands taught during that reporting period. The ministry has issued the Mathematics Addendum, grades 1 to 8, 2020. Elementary progress reports will go home tomorrow, on Wednesday, October 28th. Virtual parent-teacher interviews will take place on Thursday, October 29th. Secondary interim reports went home on Friday, October 16th, and virtual parent-teacher interviews occurred last week, the week of October 19th. The guidance on assessment, evaluation, and reporting also touched on course withdrawal. That's the date when students can drop a course and not have the course mark appear on their transcript. Withdrawal dates typically occur within 5 days of issuing the first report card, the midterm report. For students in grades 11 and 12 in the 2020-2021 school year, course withdrawal dates will be determined based on the completion of approximately 75% of the total course hours. The new course withdrawal dates are December 14th and May 20th. For students who withdraw from a grade 11 or 12 course after the revised posted deadline stated above, or the drop date, if you will, the course will be recorded on their Ontario transcript. The ministry has also adjusted the 40 hours of community service requirement for graduating students. This has been revised for the current school year, so students are not adversely impacted by the ongoing challenges related to COVID-19. For this school year, students must complete a minimum of 20 hours of community involvement activities to graduate. Students may wish to consider virtual volunteer opportunities, like mentoring seniors on the use of technology. The ministry is inviting students to explore opportunities through agencies such as Spark Ontario. At the principal's discretion, schools may waive the restrictions that do not allow students to earn volunteer hours during instructional time or duties normally performed in the home, such as walking a younger child to and from school or helping younger siblings with schoolwork. Students aged 14 years and older can count up to a maximum of 10 hours from paid employment towards their earned hours at the discretion of the principal. Students counting paid employment towards their graduation requirement will be required to complete a reflection exercise indicating how their work contributed to service for others. The flexibility recognizes that there are limited volunteer opportunities as a result of the ongoing pandemic. Turning to EQAO, which stands for the Education Quality and Accountability Office, the provincial body that administers assessments in Ontario schools. Grade 3 and Grade 6 EQAO assessments have been cancelled for the 2020-2021 school year. For the Grade 9 assessment of mathematics, EQAO is field testing a new online and adaptive assessment for Grade 9 academic and applied mathematics courses. The results, therefore, cannot be used in the determination of a student's final mark. Regarding the Ontario Secondary School Literacy Test, or known as the OSSLT, which is a requirement for graduation, students graduating in February who have not met the literacy requirement can enroll directly in the Ontario Secondary School Literacy course or participate in an adjudication process. Students graduating in June will write the OSSLT this spring along with grade 10 students. The OSSLT assesses the reading and writing skills that students are expected to have learned in all subjects by the end of grade 9, as outlined in the Ontario curriculum. Continuing with our chronology. As you know, our schools have been reporting absenteeism since the start of the school year. The data is inputted into a ministry online reporting tool. We are now also required to report on staff who are not based in schools. The board-level absence report began on October 5th and, like schools, is completed by 10:30 a.m. daily. On October 6th, I connected online with the mayors and chiefs of Manitoulin and Island to provide an update on COVID-19. Also on October 6th, the mental health team hosted the first of 2 virtual presentations to support parents and guardians to help their children transition back to school, whether learning in class or online. On October 7th, the directors of education of the local school boards held a teleconference with Dr. Penny Sutcliffe. We had the opportunity to ask questions about the school screening tool and testing for COVID-19. The directors continue to dialogue with our local medical officer of health on a regular basis. The COVID-19 leads for the local school boards are also meeting regularly. And, as you know, the Deputy Minister has held a weekly conference call with school boards since the start of the pandemic. School board chairs also connect with the Minister of Education weekly. The lines of communication remain open as the pandemic progresses. Due to the ongoing shortage of school bus drivers, the Sudbury Student Services Consortium announced 4 complete school bus route cancellations and 6 partial school bus route cancellations during the week of October 3rd, 2020. Given that some routes are partially canceled, it is extremely important that parents check to see if their child's school is affected. The complete list is posted on the board website at rainbowschools.ca. The second presentation for parents and guardians being hosted by our mental health team took place October 14th at 7 o'clock. Life Interrupted, a pathway toward resilience and growth, occurred via Google Meet. Here are some of the key messages parents heard. Put on your own oxygen mask first so you can support your children. COVID-19 has shown us that there is much that is out of our control and has forced us to get out of our comfort zone. Recognizing what's in our control and responding with purpose builds resilience. The whole world has experienced a collective loss, and our shared experience is called COVID-19, but it looks and feels differently for all of us. The mental health team shared strategies on how parents and guardians can be kinder and more compassionate towards themselves. Focus on what's happening in the moment. Find joy in difficult times. Be empathetic listeners. Cultivate calmness. Take things slowly and manage anxiety. Participants gain strategies for talking and listening to children as they navigate potential grief and loss that may be experienced during the pandemic. And as we resume teaching and learning amidst the backdrop of a global pandemic, student well-being and achievement continues to be a primary focus. I would like to thank our staff for engaging families in creative ways with content that is relevant and timely. I'm also pleased to share that the mental health team is currently working with Eastlink TV to develop the presentation for broadcast to the larger community. On October 16th, we received a notice from the Ministry of Education that effective October 29, 2020, Ontario regulation known as 274, the hiring practices, will be revoked. The Minister of Education issued an interim provincial teaching hiring policy, which will be in effect until school boards have adopted their own teacher hiring policies. The board's hiring policies will need to be consistent with a forthcoming policy program memorandum, otherwise known as a PPM, and be responsive to the local context. School boards will be expected to have their own hiring policies that meet the expectations in the PPM no later than December 31st, 2020. Also on Friday, October 16th, 2020, the Sudbury Student Services Consortium announced 3 complete school bus route cancellations and 3 partial school bus route cancellations during the week of October 19th. 1 week later, the consortium advised that there would be no cancellations of school bus routes during the week of October 26, 2020. This is certainly welcome news, and we know the consortium continues to work with the local school bus operators to address the shortage of drivers. On Monday, October 19th, the Ministry of Education asked school boards to assess their ability to pivot from in-person learning to online learning. We completed a survey by the deadline of October 23rd, 2020. Our goal is to connect teachers and students as quickly as possible, ensuring continuity of learning in the event of class dismissals and/or school closures. On Tuesday, October 20th, we hosted the Parent Involvement Committee, the annual general meeting, or PIC-AGM as we call it. The evening featured a presentation by Public Health Sudbury Districts, and parents can access the slide deck on the board website. Following the presentation, I moderated a panel discussion on education in the era of COVID-19 with staff from Rainbow Schools and Public Health. Upwards of 75 parents and guardians of students in Rainbow Schools joined us either in person or online. I would like to acknowledge all parents and guardians who participated and thank those who attended in person for following health and safety protocols. I would also like to thank our panelists, David Grew from Public Health, Superintendents Noble and Watchnick, and Mental Health Lead Mary Jago, and Principal of Remote Learning Emily Caruso Parnell. In the reopening guide for Rainbow Schools, Rainbow District School Board indicated that students in distance learning can reintegrate into face-to-face instruction in mid-November. Conversely, students in class can transfer to distance learning. On Wednesday, October 21st, we began surveying parents and guardians to confirm their status. They were asked to fill out an online form, one per child, by tomorrow. I would like to remind parents and guardians who have yet to do so. If your child is interested in moving from in-person to online or online to in-person, please complete the online form by October 28th, 2020. You must also complete the form to confirm that your child will remain as is, with no change. The transfer will occur on November 12th, 2020. Please be advised that no changes will be considered after the deadline, as we require time to reorganize classes in response to requests. The next opportunity to transfer will be February 8, 2021. Here are the survey forms. Elementary panel responses. That's our KDA. As of 3 o'clock today, we had a total of 5,322 responses. According to this identification, my child is currently attending class in person and wants to change to remote learning, 78 students. My child is currently attending remote learning and wants to change to in-person, 302 students. From the secondary panel response, as of 3 o'clock, we had approximately 1,600 responses. Again, my child is currently attending class in person and wants to change to remote learning, a total of 44 students. My child is currently attending remote learning and wants to change in person, 101 students. So the vast majority of requests are to return to in person. We also surveyed parents and guardians who are currently homeschooling their children. Here are the preliminary results, again as of 3 o'clock today. There were only 2 responses. Again, my child is currently being homeschooled and wants to change to remote learning, 2. So there was only 2 families that are referring to return from homeschooling to in-person or to virtual. On Thursday, October 22nd, 2020, we were notified of our first confirmed case of COVID-19 in Rainbow Schools at Llewellyn Park Secondary School. Public Health contacted our COVID lead at 9:40 p.m. A Skype call was quickly set up between officials from Public Health and Rainbow Schools, including our COVID lead, our superintendent responsible for health and safety and human resources, and our health and safety officer. That would be Nicole Charette, Bruce Burgett, and David Digby. During that call, Public Health directed us to dismiss 2 classes immediately and have them self-isolate to and including November 4th, 2020. The school admin team and Superintendent Burgett called staff and parents and guardians that evening. Public Health provided a letter to send to the affected individuals. We also provided a list of the class cohorts to Public Health so they could follow up. A letter was sent to school staff. We also sent an email to the local ministry's office. A letter was sent to parents and guardians and subsequently posted on the board website under the COVID-19 advisory section. Early Friday morning, we advised trustees of the first confirmed case. We also sent an email to all school principals and managers and set up a virtual meeting for Friday afternoon. Following the meeting with administrators, we sent a message to all staff in Rainbow Schools and indicated that additional information will be shared on the COVID-19 advisory section. Mid-afternoon on Friday, we received another call from Public Health. As a result, Public Health asked us to distribute a letter from them to all staff and parents and guardians at Llewellyn Park regarding potential exposure to a confirmed case in the school cafeteria on Tuesday, October the 20th, and Wednesday, October 21st, between the hours of 10:50 a.m. and 11:45 a.m. The letter was sent after 5 p.m. and was posted on the board website. On Friday, October 23rd, our COVID lead received a call from Public Health at 7:10 p.m. A Skype conference call occurred at 7:30. Public Health advised us of a second confirmed case and provided letters to share with 2 more impacted cohorts. School administrators contacted affected staff, parents and guardians, and students as soon as possible and advised them to self-isolate and seek testing. Of note here is an important fact. Even if staff and students are dismissed from school test negative, they must remain in self-isolation for the entire duration of time prescribed by Public Health. If symptoms appear, they must be retested. During the Skype call held with our staff, Public Health indicated there was no evidence of transmission at the school at that time. The school remains open for in-person learning. The first and second confirmed cases, both students, acquired COVID-19 in the community. By Friday night, therefore, we had 2 confirmed cases and 4 classes asked to self-isolate until November the 4th. Those who visited the cafeteria during a set period of time were asked to contact Public Health for guidance. On Saturday morning, our COVID lead and superintendent worked with Llewellyn Park administrators to finalize letters for all school staff and all parents and guardians. The letter to parents was subsequently posted on the board website. Of course, we kept trustees and Ministry of Education contacts updated as events unfolded. The administrators at Llewellyn Park worked throughout the weekend to prepare for Monday morning. They needed to determine staffing levels, as well as provide for continuity of learning for students who were self-isolating. Facilities was also notified to do deep clean and disinfect the school throughout the weekend. On Sunday, October the 25th, as school administrators had just completed a very busy weekend at the school, came the call from Public Health about the 3rd confirmed case. Our COVID lead and superintendent joined Public Health staff on a Skype call at 11:40 p.m. We were advised that a 5th class was required to self-isolate. The 5th class was asked to self-isolate to and including November 5th. The isolation period for a class that was previously dismissed was extended by 1 day to November 5th. Public Health provided letters to be shared with the affected cohorts, a letter for staff and a letter for students for each impacted class. Board staff and school administrators worked into the early hours of the morning to develop a strategy to call parents and guardians early Monday morning before the start of the school day. According to the Province of Ontario Operational Guide, COVID-19 Management in Schools, an outbreak in a school is defined as 2 or more lab-confirmed COVID-19 cases in students and or staff in a school with an epidemiological link within a 14-day period, where at least 1 case could have reasonably been acquired through their infection in the school. As a result of this 3rd case, an outbreak has been declared at Llewellyn Park Secondary School. However, Public Health indicated that there is no evidence of widespread transmission at the school at this time. For this reason, Llewellyn Park Secondary School remains open for in-person learning. A letter was sent to staff on Monday morning. A letter was also sent to all parents and guardians and subsequently posted on the board website in the COVID-19 advisory section. We kept trustees and the Ministry of Education informed as the process unfolded. On Monday morning, we participated in a Skype call with the local medical officer of health and staff from Public Health. We met as an exec council to debrief. We invited Public Health to visit Llewellyn Park Secondary School on Monday afternoon to share the protocols in place and the measures we have taken. We held a conference call with secondary principals to walk them through the process and to ensure a high level of readiness. Public Health Sudbury and districts issued a news release to the community regarding the outbreak on Monday afternoon. And as you can see, the situation evolved rapidly and required immediate attention. I would like to thank Principal Pamela Potvin and Vice Principals Melanie Bertrand and Steve McKenzie for their focused efforts. I would also like to thank school staff for their patience and professionalism. And I would like to acknowledge our students and parents and guardians for following public health guidance and working together to keep everyone safe. We wish all those who have contracted COVID-19 a speedy recovery. And we'd like to thank those who are self-isolating under the direction of public health. We look forward to their return to school, and we value our partnership with public health. Now, more than ever, it's important to be COVID kind and unite as a caring community. Practice kindness, patience, and gratitude. We are all in this together. In the letters by Public Health and Rainbow District School Board, we emphasized what we all need to do in order to limit the spread of COVID-19. I would call these rules to live by. And this evening's update, and this ends this evening's update with visuals that we develop for television screens in schools to serve as a reminder of the public health practices that will keep us safe at school. Not only at school, though, but at home and in the community. And I would like to share a quote from Dr. Penny Sutcliffe. Parents and guardians play an important role in the health of our school community, and small actions, such as asking questions when unsure and being more cautious than usual, will go a long way to keep COVID-19 out of schools and our community. And here are some samples of signs. And this brings this evening's update to a close. I would be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
I thank you very much, Director Blazik. That was a lot of it was a very long report, but was a necessary report. And I'm very happy to see how involved everyone has been. Please indicate if you have a question. I see Trustee St. Jean.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a question about families or students who are new to our board or wanting to register for our board that weren't previously, like if the student was at a different school board. What are the guidelines around that currently?
So if there is a student that is currently interested in coming to our board, they should identify and register with us prior to October 31st. And they should be doing that. Well, of course, they have this week to do that until Friday. And of course, they will have to identify where they're coming from. And if they're from out of the community, there's no problem. But again, I would like to remind everyone that when a child does come to us, their principals do have a process that they go through in terms of reviewing the transfer files as were mandated by the ministry. And so there is that process. So it's really imperative that the family that's moving into the community, that they go as soon as they can to meet with the principal, make an appointment, and so that they can review the application to move to a Sudbury school, in particular Rainbow School.
Are you all right with that, Carrie?
Yes, thank you for the deadline. I'm just, is it at our discretion to accept or deny applications for people who already reside in the area?
If they already reside in the area, there are certain parameters of which we must follow. For example, if they're currently attending, if they're already attending within our own schools, there has to be a definite reason why they want to migrate within our own schools. If they are attending another board and they were wanting to switch to our board, they would have to have a conversation with the principal, because there are parameters for having that move. And so if they meet those parameters, then they will be entered. They would be invited to attend. But again, much of this has to do with the review of their current the OSR, and they have to review the OSR because there are certain needs sometimes that are able to be provided within certain sections. So we have to have a conversation. So every individual is based on the merits of their needs. For the most part, yes, it's an easy transfer, but not always.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, Trustee Gibson?
Thank you, Chair Dewar. First of all, I just wanted to update that I've now received several different messages from different people, and I've had a look myself, and the live stream is still not up there. So I just wanted to let you know that. I know you said you were working on it, so don't know if that's helpful information or not. And then I have a couple of questions regarding the presentation. So my first one is to Director Blazeg. You mentioned that on the day of professional learning, they spent half the day on COVID-related learning. What was the other half of that day, the professional learning? I was just curious.
That was school improvement planning.
Okay, thank you. And I was wondering if we've come to a decision or relayed information about final exams for secondary students. I've read about other boards making decision, and I wasn't sure if where we are in that process. If you could just give us a brief update, please.
I'm going to allow Superintendent Noble to speak to that.
Through you, Madam Chair. Thank you for the question. We have come to a decision. The Rainbow District School Board has students continuing to learn through the semester system. We are not learning in an octomester. We are not learning in a quadmester. And as such, we will continue with the examination schedule as was outlined at the beginning of the year in the calendar, in the board calendar. We do, as always, leave our teachers with professional judgment as to whether an examination is the best way to assess students' learning of overall expectations in the course. Teachers are given great latitude and great flexibility to meet the needs of their students. In pandemic times, I'm sure they're going to take that into consideration. However, for our grade 12 students who may not have written an exam at the end of last year, and if they continue to not write exams, we're not entirely sure we are setting them up to be entirely prepared for writing exams at university. So we are leaving the decision up to teachers and principals, and working with their program leaders, and working with student success to make the best decisions for their students. There is also the opportunity to break apart the 30% of the final assessment into parts. So for example, 15% of that assessment could be an exam, and 15% of that assessment could be a culminating task or an oral exam or something that is deemed appropriate for the particular content of each subject area. I hope that answers your question.
It does. Thank you very much. So supplementary, if I may. So is that something that would be communicated then on a class level? So if a student, for example, had a question, they would just communicate directly with their teacher, and their teacher would give them the information as to how the final assessment will be, or is it a principal or a school level? How would we get that information for an individual person out there that needs it?
That is communicated directly from the teacher to the student, because it looks different in every class and every pathway in every grade and every subject. Sorry.
That's what I thought. I just wanted to be sure. So just give the advice that they should check directly with their teacher, basically. Okay, thank you. I did want to ask about Regulation 274-12 being revoked. And I do apologize if I missed it during the presentation because I was getting some messages from people trying to view the meeting and such. So I understand that it's been revoked. So what do we have in place temporarily until the PPM comes? I think you mentioned following the collective agreement, but if you could just briefly explain what that entails.
I'll allow Superintendent Bourget to speak to that.
Thank you for your question, and through you, Chair Dewar. At this point, the Ministry of Education has a temporary measure in place, which has a policy that we are to follow up until and including December 31st, and then we're to have a new board policy that follows under some guidelines that they put in place effective for the new year. At this time, it looks similar in many ways to the old regulation in terms of still having lists of teachers, a long-term occasional roster, and short-term supply list. And there's some differences in terms of what the interview pool would look like. But certainly some things are still retained, such as the most senior teacher will be granted an interview. But the outcomes of the interviews are more based on merit than seniority, and with a lens towards equity and diversity in our workforce. So we're working through the new document from the ministry, but there is one in place until we have time to put together a board policy based on their structure and their requirements.
Thank you, Superintendent Bourget. And lastly, again, probably a question for the director. I was just wondering about lessons learned, whether there's anything that we will change or anything that will be done differently now that we've actually been through the experience of having cases and an outbreak declared at Llewellyn School. I was just wondering whether there's anything that can be passed along as lessons learned. I'm thinking particularly around students congregating, cafeterias opening, eating off campus, those sorts of things, if there's anything that we're going to do differently going forward.
So the practices that we've been employed up to date have all been approved by Public Health, and so we continue to work with them in terms of they're the drivers of our policies and our procedures. The one thing that we continue to do is educate, because this is truly about education, making sure that every child understands their role and every community member understands their role. And if we can keep it out of the community, we'll keep it out of the schools. So we really emphasize that. The other piece, and you alluded to it, is about the social distancing. What we've learned very clearly is that it does have a huge component in terms of how to ensure that we don't have any of our kids contracting the COVID-19, the virus. Having said that, we have taken numerous measures, far more than most boards, in terms of trying to ensure that our kids are safe and our students are safe. So we're feeling very comfortable in the fact that we have many measures in place. Could we be better? Always. I mean, we can always be better in the enforcement part of it. Again, that's through education, though. And we continue to review the practices that you alluded to. And we again, will be looking at tightening up some of our cafeteria measures. And that is, again, that would be restricting the movement of some kids if we're doing that. And I will tell you, though, that the measures that were in place at Llewellyn were very strict. We had plexiglass in the cafeterias. We had seating that was physically distanced. So we're not quite sure what the root of the spread was, other than the fact that they've indicated that it was school spread, or possibly school spread. So we continue to work with them very closely, and that's why we had them visit the school, just to see exactly what we were all about. You will also note that we will have to make a decision about lockers, the use of lockers in the very near term. And when it snowed the other day, it was a reminder to us that our students need a place to put their boots and their coats, because it's going to be very messy in our schools. So we're looking at very strategic ways in order to deal with that, and in order to ensure that we are doing physical distancing and ensuring that we are we're having scheduled visits to a locker should we go that route, and we are working with Public Health and, of course, reviewing what our ministry mandate is as it relates to lockers. So there's a lot at play here. And as public health gets better, we get better because we inform each other. And I think as communications become much more fluid and our understanding of each other's environments becomes better, it is, I think, a lot easier for us to come up with a collaboration that works extremely well. And I would suggest to you to date that is happening, and we have a very good relationship with them. And they're not shy to tell us if we're doing something wrong. And so you need to know that, which has not. We have not encountered any type of any challenges as it relates to that. One piece that you will note, and I'm sure all of you will see this, sometimes we do have children outside, our students outside, if they're visiting off campus. That is a challenge sometimes. If they're going home for lunch, we can't always control that, but that's an education piece, and we need to work on that on a daily basis. That's for sure. So hopefully that speaks to what you were trying to address, but this continues to evolve, and we continue to look to the leadership of public health to help inform our decision making.
Yes, that was very helpful. Thank you very much, Director. And I'm sorry, I did just have one other question regarding French instruction. I have heard and noticed personally myself that some French has become part of the work in the remote learning at elementary level. So I was just wanting to get a brief update on where we are in terms of recruiting French teachers and whether that French work that is trickling down is going to be assessed.
I'll give that to Superintendent Noble.
Thank you.
So thank you for the question. We were able to hire a French as a second language teacher for our remote elementary virtual school, but only one. And as you can imagine, all of the students from grades 4 to grade 8 require French as a second language instruction. So at this point, while we are able to offer instruction and learning activities, we are not able to assess student learning. So we are looking forward to some kind of reorganization with our new survey results, and so there may be the possibility that there is more French language teachers available to take up French instruction in our remote elementary school and allow us to assess the learning in that program.
Perfect. Thank you, Superintendent Noble. And we do appreciate having the resources to use even while you're still working on alleviating the problem overall. So thank you very much for your work on that.
So thank you very much. I don't see any other questions. I'm going to say, oh, sorry, student trustee LaFrance.
Yes, thank you. I just have a question about if students are in class learning and they're at some point not at the entry point, which is November 11th, they feel unsafe, can they go to online, or do they have to wait to the next entry point?
So again, the scenario is such that the decision point is tomorrow. Okay, so they had to indicate tomorrow. We can't be going back and forth because it's too difficult to staff. Okay, so they have to know their intentions by tomorrow. If there is a scenario, though, let's say there was if there was a case in a particular class, obviously that class or there would be a quarantine period, so they would be protected if they didn't have the COVID test that showed it was positive. So I mean, there are measures in place when public health steps in, but if there is that fear and they're more comfortable, they would have to indicate tomorrow that they want to make the switch on November the 12th. Otherwise, the next date is February the 8th.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Trustee LaFrance. Before we leave this topic, I'd just like to say I thank you very much for all of the information, Director Blazek. I'm constantly amazed at how much work is being done in the background and by so many of our staff. I want to take this opportunity to thank our parents. Our parents have been just fantastic and have been we understand the dilemma and the difficulties in this very difficult time. So I say thank you to the parents. I say thank you to the students. Our students are amazing, and I want to thank them. I want them, though, to take a minute and read some of those signs that you have posted around. There is room for improvement. When you're going out into the community, if you have some spare time, please. We know it's a bit of a break for them, but we need to encourage you to wear those masks. It has to be. It's short-term pain for long-term gain. So it really does work, and we hope we thank everyone for doing their part in these times.
Madam Chair,
Thank you very much.
if I may, I just have one other point I wanted to add, and it's unrelated to the report. We did appoint Melanie Bertrand as a permanent vice principal at Llewellyn Park as of last Friday.
Very good. Congratulations to Melanie. That's good news for her and for our students. So thank you very much. Moving on, I'll ask the OBSPA director, Trustee Clement, if there's any report that he has.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In September, the virtual AGM was on, and for purposes mostly of elections and stuff, Kathy Abrams was voted back in as president of OBSPA. And for us, the VP has been changed for Northern Ontario to Cheryl Evans Price, who is from Algoma. She was my partner when we went to MPP meetings, and she's very good. And we've had some conversation, and we're both on the same page that we're going to be very advocates for Northern Ontario. Also, we're working on a virtual Northern Ontario meeting for November. We're just working on the agenda there now. Also, I have to tell you that OSPA is taking a lot of credit for Bill 274 because they were pushing for that for a long time. I also know that Code was pushing that for a long time. So there's a lot of people involved. So I have nothing else to report. We'll let you know when we have our meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Trustee Clement. Trustee Cosmerly, did you have anything you wanted to add? I know you voted at the AGM.
Yes, I did. Just to add, that was the one piece that I was able to do. Unfortunately, there was a family crisis that occurred around the same time, and I wasn't able to attend the AGM meeting, but I was able to get a vote in. Unfortunately, none of the people that I nominated were elected, but at least I voted. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And my understanding is that Trustee Gibson attended, so there was somebody there. If you ever, so we had somebody from Rainbow District School Board. Thank you very much. Student Trustee LaFrance.
Sure, I can give a little update on just how Student Senate is going right now. So at the last board meeting, I think it was Trustee Morrison who suggested to do a campaign for social distancing and wearing your mask. So the Student Senate has started working on that. We're making a fun little video for everybody. So once it's done, I'll share it with you guys. It's pretty cute. We're just getting all the parts together. It's just a simple, like, wear your mask, even outside, because it's in the air. That's one of the lyrics, actually. And it's just, I think it's really it's really catchy. So I feel like it might make the students want to listen more than, looking at reading the signs and stuff, they get distracted and confused. So hopefully this gets across to them, and it was a good idea. Everyone on Senate enjoying themselves. So that's what's going on right now for Student Senate.
Thank you very much, students, Trustee LaFrance. Trustees' remarks or questions? If you have something. There being none. Trustee Gibson.
Sorry for the last minute wave. I was just wondering if there was any update regarding meetings continuing online or being in person. Is there any update on where that's headed, or?
Nope.
Just continuing as is? Okay. Thank you. I'll wait for an update.
Thank you. Chair's remarks from, I have a few items that I would like to bring to your attention. From November the 2nd to the 6th, Rainbow Schools will honor Treaty Recognition Week as staff and students continue to learn about the history, cultures, contributions, and perspectives of First Nation, Métis, and Inuit people of Canada. Activities and lessons throughout the week will create awareness about treaties, their history, and various treaty relationships. Circle your calendar, because on November the 4th, students in Rainbow Schools will spend time learning about various career options and opportunities for this year's Take Our Kids to Work Day. On Wednesday, November 25th, students in grades 7 and 8, as well as their parents and guardians, are invited to take part in a virtual presentation of Making the Transition, Finding Your Way from Grade 8 to Grade 9. The session will provide students with key information about the transition from elementary to secondary school. The Winter Clothing Drive, powered by Cooper Equipment Rentals, is still happening this year, with a few changes to ensure everyone's safety. Members of the community are invited and encouraged to drop off gently used winter clothing items at either the Sudbury Women's Center, Pregnancy Care Center, and Infant Food Bank, or Better Beginnings, Better Futures. Excuse me. As always, parents are reminded to use the school screening tool for COVID-19 as part of your morning routine. A link to the school screening tool is available on the board's website, rainbowdistrictschools.ca. There's also a COVID-19 advisory section that can be found online with the most current information related to Rainbow Schools. The thought for this month is an Irish saying from an unknown author. Most Irish sayings come from people that don't want to attach their name to them. And this one says, "May you have the hindsight to know where you've been, the foresight to know where you are going, and the insight to know when you have gone too far." In closing, please remember to save a life, wear a mask. Thank you very much. If you take a minute, you've got a number of reports in your backup: the Audit Committee minutes, the First Nations Advisory Committee minutes, and the Special Education Committee minutes. These minutes are attached to your board agendas, and they are available on the website, attached to the regular board meeting agenda that is posted there. I also want to mention the future meetings. Please take a quick look at them. If you see anything that you know may not be correct, always keep in mind that the future meetings are there for your information, but there's nothing saying that in these times we may have to make changes, short notice changes. We'll try to keep you informed if those changes happen. Otherwise, hopefully these times and dates are all correct. Now call for a motion that we now adjourn. Moved by, Trustee Morrison, did you have something? No. Moved by Trustee Morrison, seconded by Trustee Gibson. Trustee Gibson, are you trying to say you don't want me to ask the question?
No, I just wanted to let you know, I'm happy to second the motion. I just wanted to let you know I'm still receiving messages, so it didn't live stream at any point is what I can see. I just want to pass on that information. I'm happy to second the motion.
Okay. We'll say goodbye with a wave. Goodbye, everyone. We are now adjourned. Oh, no, yes, I have a mover and a seconder. We are